This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. The Rich Dad Radio, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. A fantastic program today, exciting program. It's about what's going on in gold and Bitcoin and silver. In my opinion, the most important investment things we should be looking at today, given how nuts the economy is. I mean, it is nuts right now. I can't believe it. So we have a special guest today is Jay Martin. He's from one of my favorite cities in the world, Vancouver, British Columbia. And Kim and I were just reminiscing about, Kim and I had a teacher in the 90s, a mentor. His name was Frank. And Frank's job was he took companies public. And he hung out in Vancouver and the Toronto Stock Exchange. So today, Kim and I have no stocks because once that old saying is, once you see how they make sausage, you'll never eat it again. So I don't like, if you like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, have a good life. But once I saw the process of how you take nothing, you take a bunch of BS, and you turn it into a stock and you take it public on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and then if lucky, it goes to the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. I really don't like the process personally, but all it did was convince me why gold, silver, and today Bitcoin, far more solid investments given what's going on in the economy. Any comments? Anything was about our teacher, Frank, because he was our best teacher, wasn't he?
Well, I used to say, Frank, you're such a great teacher, and he would say, I'm not a teacher. And I'm like, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. I would literally sit. We'd be at the boardroom table with him, and I'd literally be sitting at his side, listening and just learning. And that was the price we paid. It didn't matter that the companies didn't go anywhere.
Right.
The education we got was invaluable. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Yeah.
Which brings me to why I'm here, Robert. I wanted to tell you about a very exciting investment opportunity.
Everybody in Vancouver's got a deal. And if the right pocket deal doesn't fit, they got a left pocket deal. Everybody had a deal. But I just loved it. It was so exciting. If I tell a story, is what happened was Kim and I were working on the cashflow board game. And I didn't know how to. One part of my life I didn't have was even IPO, initial public offering. Today they call them everything these days. And so our neighbor in Phoenix said, "Well, I know this guy named Frank," and Frank lived up quite a ways away. But we drove up to his place, and I said, "I really want to learn how to do an IPO. Tell me how to do an IPO." He goes, "I don't teach people. I just want to learn." He says, "How bad do you want to learn?" I said, "Bad." He says, "He'd be on a plane tonight, be at the top of the mountain." So
interesting.
So I go home to Kim and we're filming the video for the cashflow board game, right?
Yep. We're going. We were flying to Texas. We were going to go film. We had it all set up. We had all these people that were going to do testimonials and talk about the game and talk about Rich Dad. And then Frank said, "You got to go to Peru, Robert, tonight."
How bad?
Okay.
No, it's a question I ask everybody. How bad do you want it? And Frank, same question. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want to learn this business? I said, badly. He says, "Well, Saturday night you're on this plane."
Yeah. So I went to Texas. We filmed everything that we needed to film. You went to Peru and did what you needed to do, and it all worked.
So Jay, I'm standing this mountaintop. She's in Dallas filming this thing. I'm up at 17,000 feet without oxygen, passing out. and I came back, and Frank says, "What'd you find out?" I said, "It's not going to work." He says, "I knew that. I just wanted to find out how bad you wanted it."
Interesting.
And so that's the question I talk to so many people in life is, how bad do you want something? And most people, the answer is not bad enough. But anyway, Jay.
Okay, let me just introduce Jay here. Jay Martin. He's the president and CEO of Cambridge House International, and they, previous to COVID, did all these investment seminars, huge conferences, all about the mining sector. He's also on the board of Entrepreneur Organization, which is something near and dear to our hearts. Great organization, Entrepreneur Organization. But today, so we're going to learn about the mining sector, and you talk to all the experts, and you're interviewing these people all day long. So we're going to find out from Jay just what the heck is going on and what's hot and what's not and where you should be looking.
So Jay, you're a real young guy. How did you get into this thing so young? You must have been started as a pickpocket early.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. Like all the greats in Vancouver. Yeah, no, it's a roundabout way. So I took over a family business in 2011. I began purchasing a company that my dad founded. And at the time, it seemed like a great idea. It was a resource investment conference company. So if you're familiar with that sector, this was 2011, ended up being a horrible time to purchase a resource investment conference company because gold subsequently fell off a cliff for the next 6 years. But ended up being the best education for a young entrepreneur at the time, right? I had to lay off all of our staff, we ended up invested in so many projects that were just no longer economic. And within 3 years, we were literally days from insolvency. But, we were able, in true to Vancouver fashion, find some pivots, right? And, on the heels of the cannabis market and the crypto market, and we pivoted pretty aggressively to technology at that time, actually. And
I love Vancouver. I do.
It's fun. It is. Yeah. And everything you say about it is true, right? It's a hustler city for sure. And so investors need to beware, right? Because it's very promotional. But if you like that thrill and you like to get in on things early, as I do, I don't know if there's a better place in the world to be located, right? The venture exchange offers just a really unique vehicle to raise cash for a good idea. Unfortunately, it's also a vehicle to raise cash for horrible ideas, and we see that a lot. But with the right mentorship, guidance, and gurus that you're following, and if you want it bad enough to do the diligence, as you said, Robert, you can find some amazing opportunities, right? If you like that early stage stuff.
It's exciting. And I only like early stage. Like people say, are you buying Bitcoin? I said, I already bought Bitcoin. And they don't understand that. So your profit is made when you buy, not when you sell. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the jury's out for me on Bitcoin, to be honest. Like I invest actually every month, I dollar cost average in, and my question around Bitcoin is like, I don't really know what I think it is yet, which is kind of unique.
I understand, but for me, it's just a trade.
It's a trade.
Okay. It's a momentum trade. That's all it is. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So somebody said, well, have you made any money? So, well, I bought it at 6, 7, and 9, and today it's around 65,000.
Yeah,
so I'm still in the money.
You're doing well.
So why is there always this discussion and this debate about crypto versus gold?
It's Bitcoin and gold.
I mean, Bitcoin and gold. Bitcoin is the gold, digital gold.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I hear it all the time as well. And I've hosted those debates on my channel, on my podcast, and on my YouTube channel. And I think it's asking the wrong question, right? If we're going to compare the two as if it's apples to apples, then it just isn't, right? I own gold, I own Bitcoin. I don't think that you can study history with any kind of a focus on currencies and then think you shouldn't own gold. It doesn't make sense to me, right? I wouldn't go all in, but having a horse in the race is really, really important, right? And I mean physical gold bars and coins. That's what I prefer to own. That's obviously true. I invest in.
We have tons of it. I mean, literally tons.
Yeah, and it's you can look through. So Bitcoin is what, 13-year-old. It's not enough of a track record to convince me that it knows what it is yet. I'm bullish on it for sure, and I own a bunch, but it's different from a 5,000-year history of a hard asset. It's like comparing Facebook stock to real estate. It doesn't make sense to me. They're two very different things.
And my favorite is silver.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's an industrial metal. Gold is a precious metal. Silver is precious and industrial. So, I mean, we have tons of silver too.
Yeah.
And I just don't know why people argue about it. My question is, how many ounces have you got? How many Bitcoins have you got? This and this and this. So how much you got?
Mm-hmm.
What is the consensus on silver these days?
Yeah, I think the consensus from the people that I speak to on my show, definitely one of the more bullish commodities that I'm hearing people speak about. However, it's funny though, right? Because if you look at the macro trends supporting what should be a really robust gold market, gold and silver haven't really responded yet. And so we've got this weird situation where the macro trends are more bullish than ever, but the sentiment is more bearish than ever. I mean, literally, I had a handful of friends at the 2 precious metals conferences in Colorado in September, right? The Beaver Creek and Denver Gold Forum. And no joke, one of them came back to, he lives in Holland, but we had a call shortly thereafter. I couldn't make it to the event. And he said he was cornered by a couple gold investors who said, Ronald Stofferly, you might know him, right? And he said, they cornered him and said, Ronnie, if gold isn't performing now, the trade must be dead. It's over now, right? Which was the most bullish thing that I'd ever heard. I went out and doubled down on my it's like, that's what we want, right?
Well, you're from Vancouver. That's not.
But if you have the patience and you understand that sometimes patience is the best trade, right? That's often overlooked, right? Then yeah, sit tight, right? Tight.
This is, my mom was on, was it Danielle Gambo?
Yeah, Camboni, yeah.
I love her, man. I just love her.
She's great.
I just said, I am not buying gold, silver, and Bitcoin. I'm betting against the Fed.
Sure.
That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
And when I look at how screwed up the Fed is and the Treasury is, that's why gold bugs go, how come the price of gold is not higher? Isn't that true? Because the dollar is toxic. The dollar is more of a COVID pandemic than anything I've ever seen. I wouldn't touch that damn dollar. That's how I'm texting back and forth. I won't hold dollars right now. I'd rather not hold dollars.
Even short-term U.S. dollars, you don't want them.
Oh, we only want them if in case there's an investment. But I always say to Kim, we do save gold, silver, Bitcoin, and we use debt as money. We're real estate guys. So real estate guys borrow money to invest. Why would you use your own money? What did Frank say?
Frank said his classic line. We were talking about it, raising money for our company, and we're gonna work hard and we're gonna save money, and then we're gonna invest it. And he goes, only lazy people use their own money. And I'm like, no, Frank, I work really hard.
Right.
And he's like, no, wouldn't it be harder to convince somebody else to give you money for your investment? And that was like a game changer for me. I'm like, oh my gosh,
it changed our lives.
It did.
Yeah.
Because when we need money, we borrow money to buy the investment, and the investment throws off cash flow. The extra cash goes into, we save gold, silver, Bitcoin.
Okay. Yeah.
And when Frank sent me up to Vancouver, I thought I died and went to heaven. Then I went to Toronto, and that's a little bit more sophisticated.
A little bit. Yeah.
And then I was talking to my friend from NASDAQ. He goes, you go to Vancouver, you want to take a shower after talking to me.
Yeah, it's still got that reputation. We know people worked hard to earn that reputation. Yeah, it's funny. My philosophy is similar, but I use real estate like I think about gold. And honestly, as I think about Bitcoin, as I said, I don't know what Bitcoin is because I don't have clarity on why I'm buying it. I have 3 reasons, but they're all undecided to me. I don't know when and why I would sell it, right? I don't know, is this a speculation, a trade, right? Maybe, yeah, if it is, then I should be taking profits, possibly, right? If I think it's a hard asset, then just continue to dollar cost average in. Don't worry about the price. Not a hard asset, but a long-term asset, right? A safe haven asset.
No, I'm betting against the stock market and the dollar.
That makes sense to me.
That's all I'm doing.
Absolutely.
I don't trust those.
Yeah.
One of the best things about hanging out in Vancouver, Toronto, and New York is I don't trust stocks. It's completely 100% manipulated. And it's manipulated by credit markets. They print these, the repo market, the reverse repo market, and they're selling T-bills and all this stuff. That's a bigger horse play than Vancouver.
And it is. And here's why I guess I don't touch anything in the broad equities market. Like I have a very barbell approach, hard assets, safe haven assets on one side, and then early stage speculative stuff on the other side. And in the spec market, specifically companies listed on the venture exchange, there's not enough liquidity for the forces that you're talking about to really manipulate the market, right? And so what I coach our viewers to do is, if you have the time to invest in being an investor in the speculative market, which is the most important thing, and most people overlook that, right? But as soon as you're taking profits, right, push it over to hard assets or those safe haven asset classes, whether that's Bitcoin, real estate, gold, cash. I hold cash as well, but I generate the cash in the spec market, and as soon as there's profits, I move that over to the legacy wealth bucket, right?
Yep. And when you talk about Bitcoin and the future of Bitcoin, I think of our friend Landon. Landon was, he got in
first round,
early first rounds on all these companies, on Bitcoin, on Ethereum,
Amazon.
All of it. He's big in cryptocurrencies, but he said to me the other day, I said, Landon, what do you see happening in the future? Where's it going? And he said, Kim, he goes, I've been in this from the pretty early stages. He says, if anybody tells you that they know what's going to happen with the cryptocurrencies and with Bitcoin and Ethereum, he goes, you run like hell because
100%.
Nobody knows.
100%.
Nobody knows.
Yet guys like you were talking about, Raoul Paul is this 90%, his whole asset, his whole wealth is in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Or cryptos.
Yeah.
But anyway, the whole point here, it's a bet against. And in my world, in your world, it's called counterparty. Who's on the other side of the trade? And the reason I loved Vancouver was because people talk about doing due diligence on Amazon and all this. Well, do you think Jeff Bezos will let you come talk to him? No. But the thing I liked about Vancouver, I could meet the promoter. No, I'd sit there and talk to him, and you get a sense of who they are, or they're lying to you and all this.
Yeah.
And then from there, that's where we go do our due diligence. We actually looked at the stuff, and we actually met the guys who were putting the deal together. That's why I love Vancouver so much. That's why I like Toronto so much. Do you know what I mean? It's because I could meet the guys.
You have to do that. When you're investing in companies that size, you're not really investing in the product or the service or even the industry, right?
Who's
you're
the
investing
team?
in the integrity and decision-making of one or two individuals and the people they surround themselves with.
Yeah.
Right?
And this guy, Frank, our buddy, he had the best team around him, man. These guys were the best on Toronto.
That's the strategy. You pick the best people and then don't deviate, right?
Correct.
100%.
So it was the best grow up. That's why when Marin Katusa, we invest with him. He's a startup guy too.
Smart. 100%.
So we don't buy stocks, we buy startups. There's a very big difference because we're entrepreneurs. You know, we're not 401k guys, you know, we're not losers like that. I have no use for them. But I like the startup. It's exciting. We're entrepreneurs. So we come back, we'll be talking more with Jay Martin and all this about gold, silver, Bitcoin. But my whole thing is, why would you own it? The counterparty is a person called the Fed and the Treasury and Wall Street. That's why I buy gold, silver, Bitcoin. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about gold, silver, and Bitcoin. But more importantly, the most toxic thing, more toxic than COVID, is the U.S. dollar. That baby is in big trouble. Anyway, you can listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes, Android, or YouTube, and leave us a review. Also, we archive our programs at richdadradio.com. The reason we do that is repetition is how we learn best. You listen to this again, you'll pick up twice as much. But more important, if you have friends, family, and the business associates who are still saving dollars or yen or pesos or the loonie, you know, I would listen to this program because I think fake money or fiat currency is in serious trouble right now. And so when we're talking about gold, silver, and Bitcoin, I'm not buying gold, silver, Bitcoin. I just don't trust our government. You know, and they're going to have to start printing pretty quickly. And the more they print, the less value, purchasing power the dollar has, or the loonie, or the yen, or the peso. So that's kind of, it's not a bet for gold, silver, Bitcoin. It's a bet against our government. Any comments, Kim?
Well, that's been our discussion the last week or so. is we have, you know, with this cash, we have cash, and we don't really want to hold on to cash. And then I listened to our friend George Gammon, and he has this possible scenario that the dollar's going to come crashing down, and I'm like, we got to move it now. We got to do something with it. It's like I go into panic mode. Like It's all going to crash tomorrow. So I'm this is why I'm so interested in listening to you, Jay, too, and where you see things happening in the mining sector, because as Robert said, it's gold, silver, Bitcoin, and cash is something that makes me very, very nervous.
Sure.
Yeah. Matter of fact, we're talking about selling one of our houses, and it's like, well, we don't need the cash. We'd rather hold it in the real estate.
100%. Yeah,
we
absolutely.
Don't need it.
I would never sell my real estate.
Our guest today is Jay Martin. This guy's infamous, you know, he's the CEO of Cambridge House. He interviews some of the smartest guys. He's always inside the business. You don't make recommendations.
I don't. No. I tell people if I'm buying something, why I'm buying it, but no, I never tell people what to do with their cash.
Yeah, same as us. Yep. So I have a different question, if I can ask, because you are president and CEO of your company, you're on the board of entrepreneur organization. So COVID hits. Okay. You do seminars all across Canada and the U.S. You do physical live seminars, and okay, we're toast for right now. This business has to change dramatically. As an entrepreneur, what was your thinking process?
Yeah, that was a pretty exciting time. So
that's a good word.
I mean, here's the thing, right? When COVID hit, we're talking about March of 2020, and global pandemics announced, right? A lot of industries probably had to wonder whether or not they were going to be impacted, if they were going to be impacted, and how. Live event production, we knew, right? We knew from the jump, right? So, you know, we knew the lights were going to get shut off overnight. Now, that's hard. And like, honestly, Kim, like that, the next 12 months, because we had to completely clean house and reinvent the business, right? Some of the darker periods of my life, if I'm speaking honestly about this, right? And some of the best lessons as an entrepreneur. What I would say is that thankfully, I purchased a company right before our primary market fell off a cliff. And so my defense game is pretty good. That's how I cut my teeth as an entrepreneur, is with my back against the wall, right? Fixing something that was broken. And so.
And you're 37 now. It's a young age to get
37.
hammered.
I'm glad you still think I'm young. I wasn't sure.
Well, it's all relative.
Yeah. And so, it was obviously there's a lot there, right? And without going into the details, the high level is I was able to look at the business and decide, what do I really love about it? Well, I love hosting conversations on stage. That part is my favorite because I'm an investor first. Everything I do has to serve my portfolio. So let's keep that if we can. And if I can get rid of trade shows and conferences and the headaches of negotiating with unions and venues and all of this stuff.
It's tough business. It's a tough business. We know it well.
It can be, right? It can be a lot of fun, but it can also be a grind. And we started leaning very hard on our digital assets, essentially doing exactly what I used to do on stage, just doing it from a home studio. I built a home studio in about 2 weeks, right? And started calling a lot of the guests that I used to have on stage. And because, there was never a bigger hunger or thirst for information about what the heck is going on out there than at that moment. And so we ended up in the right place at the right time, coincidentally, and our platforms all took off as a consequence. The podcast, the YouTube channel, the newsletter, because everybody was curious. Everybody got smashed. Everybody realized suddenly how vulnerable and fragile they were, right? When suddenly incomes are turned off, you realize, if you don't have any gold in the safe, any cash in the bank, any Bitcoin in the wallet, what's left, right? If the income stops, right? So I think that was what I hoped to be this grand awakening. And I don't know if it was, right? You tell me. I think the subsidies were important for a lot of small business owners and people to get through that time, but maybe it also protected us from an important lesson about, the importance of personal sovereignty and personal wealth creation. I don't know.
Well, what's happening is that listening to the fourth turning.
Yeah.
And we're entering one of the most volatile, uncertain times in history right now.
Yeah.
And so that's why you're kind of in the right place at the right time. And not to toot our own horn, but Kim and I saw this coming a long time ago. So rather than get hammered, we took off.
Right.
We did better. And we had to come off the road, which was good. So we can now hang out in this room and Zoom all over the world.
Yeah.
So we make more money.
So but
we're prepared for it.
Yep. We reach more people. We do it more efficiently, just like you do. You're more efficient. We don't have to travel all over the world and check into a hotel and go talk to 1,000 people. We can talk to 1 million people right here.
Yeah.
But this is the difference, all you entrepreneurs out there. We had product in position all over the world.
Right.
And so we're making more money. We're making, due to Sweetheart here, we're in position. We are 200% ahead of plan because our books are all over the world. Our games are all over the world. And now we don't have to travel to go do it. So it was a blessing. Yeah. So when I meet, I was talking to a young guy at California Pizza Kitchen or something, he says most of his friends are happy to sit at home. I said, they're wasting their lives.
Right. Mind blowing.
Yeah. They're taking the stimmy check, whatever they take, and they're playing Bitcoin or that. They're just playing.
Right.
I said, you're not learning a damn thing. Yeah. This could be the best learning time of your life. As hard as it is, just going to prepare you for when times get worse.
Mm-hmm. And that's to your point. You looked at, your back was against the wall. What do I do? How do we reinvent ourselves? What do we do? And we see our friends, and they're doing the same thing. It's like, okay, here we go. Then for most of them, it has been the best learning experience and best blessing they've had. Yeah. Other people are like, oh my God, it's all falling apart. What am I going to? And they're trying to do the same thing. Okay. They're trying to do the same thing again that they've been doing, and they're going nowhere, and they just don't want to break out of what they know and out of their comfort zone. They'd rather sit on the couch.
I'm not saying he's right, but this guy Strauss on the fourth turning, a turning is basically a lifetime.
Yeah.
So like 90 years. And he said the people that remember World War II are dying. And that's Nancy Pelosi, Colin Powell just died, and all this. Mm-hmm. So the boomers, my generation is coming up right now. But your and every generation is going to hit this time at a different part of their lives. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So the people that are sitting at home right now, they're really wasting their lives because according to, I think his name is Neil Strauss, I could be wrong, it's going to get worse. And the reason it's going to get worse is why I'm in gold, silver, Bitcoin. It's because the dollar is toxic. The Federal Reserve thing called the dollar is toxic. And they are so loaded with debt, they're going to have to print more money. They have to. Or we default on our, the debt ceiling and all this.
Yeah.
So I'm not buying gold. So, when Kim and I, 35 years ago, started buying gold, silver, now Bitcoin, it was a bet against the Fed, the Treasury, and Wall Street. Mm. And the baby boomers are toast right now. Our pensions are empty. So who's going to bail out the pensions? Of course, the Fed and the Treasury. So why am I buying gold, silver, Bitcoin? It's because who's going to bail out the baby boomers next?
Right.
And that's why the counterparty. Would you mind explaining counterparty? Because that's a very common term in gold and silver, guys.
Yeah, well, I think you position that best when I ask you why you're buying gold, why you're buying Bitcoin. It's not necessarily because you are a gold bug or a Bitcoin maximalist, right? Which is dangerous, right? And it's funny how frequently I'll speak to a gold bug or a Bitcoin maximalist, and they talk about the importance of thinking critically and thinking independently. Meanwhile, they're surrounding themselves with other gold bugs and other Bitcoin maximalists, right? And operating in their own echo chamber, right?
That's a good point.
It goes both ways.
That's a
you know
good
what
point.
I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And if you
wait. The definition of intelligence, if you agree with me, you're intelligent.
Right. But isn't that, it actually gets me to, one of the biggest conflicts I have in my mind right now, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this. I'm suddenly I've got a bit of a platform. I'm not doing Rich Dad, Poor Dad numbers, right? But between our podcast, YouTube, and newsletter, we speak to about 250,000 investors. And I've never seen so much division. And, granted, I've been in the market for about 15 years, so it's all relative, right? But the trajectory of the division is what concerns me the most. And
what do you mean by that?
So let me give you an example. So my latest newsletter was telling the story of a restaurant in a town pretty close to where I live. Actually, you guys would know it. The town's called Hope. It's a couple hours from Vancouver, right?
I wouldn't know it.
So 6,000 person town, quite small. In this town, there's a little restaurant called Raleigh's. Raleigh's has been there since the late 80s.
I have to tell you this, but I think Clinton was born in Hope.
Clinton?
Hope, Arkansas or something like that, yeah.
Oh, that's Hope, Arkansas. He's talking about.
It's got a bad name. You come from bad heritage.
Right.
No, go ahead.
Well, it is an ironic name for a town, given the story I'm about to share. But there's this restaurant called Raleigh's. They've been there since the late 80s, so 3 decades plus, right? Small business, but in a town of 6,000, pretty big contributor to the local economy. They employ 40 people, right, for 30 plus years. And a handful of the employees have been there since day one, right? They're super active in the community, philanthropic at their scale, giving back to local events, initiatives, with a focus on youth at risk, which is real close to my heart, so I love it. Now, like every business in their position, COVID smashed them, right, real hard. They had to shut for many months. When they were allowed to open, they had to increase their staff count to meet all the sanitation requirements, meanwhile cutting their table count down by half. So costs up, revenue down, all this stuff. But they met all the mandates to the T, right? They follow the mandates because this is their livelihood and it's what they had to do. Until more recently, in the province of British Columbia, where I live, the vaccine passport mandate rolled out, right? And this is to say that anybody who goes to a restaurant, hotel, casino, public space has to be vaccinated, right? This is where the owners of Raleigh's put their foot down and said, that's illegal and against my principles, and I'm not going to do it, right? And in response, the government took their business license for 6 months. Given their recent history, that's a death blow, right? So they're finished. Now,
jeez, that's terrible.
It's not an isolated event, but I read it, and here's why it struck me so hard is because as soon as I read the story, I scrolled down to the comments, assuming everybody would be as enraged as I was. And I'm not saying who's right or wrong in this story. That's not for me to say. I scrolled down from that story expecting everybody to be as enraged as I was, right? And again, like I said, I'm not saying who's right or wrong. I think it's more complex than right or wrong. I think these issues are very complex. But it was like 150 comments saying, fine should have been bigger. Thanks for taking care of these guys, right? I would never go to that place again. Just brutally, I thought so cruel, right? And so I published this story to my audience, right? I wrote a letter about it, and I said, look, once again, I'm not condemning the government for this. I'm just saying this is crazy. I know you, yeah. And so I got a bunch of feedback from my audience saying, I was wrong for not condemning the government. And so, anyways, the point of this is now that I'm sitting on a bit of a platform, I wonder if I have or should have a bigger purpose than just talking about what's in my portfolio and why, right? Because I'm a capitalist and a humanitarian. And I think if you want to be a humanitarian, you have to be a capitalist first. Because if you don't have any resources to be anybody's
Correct.
rock, then what good are you to anybody, right? But that is a pretty rare belief in my opinion, right? And that puts me in the middle ground, right? Which suddenly is true contrarianism, because either we're way over here with government's wrong, right? Personal liberty everywhere, all this stuff, or more intervention, more regulation, all this, right? But to my point earlier about surrounding yourself with gold bugs if you're a gold investor, or Bitcoin maximalist if you're a Bitcoin investor, if you go either of those two directions, you're just surrounded by confirmation bias, right? And I think there's a lack of critical thinking. And so anyways, what I'm saying is, should I be thinking more critically about how I can bridge that gap with my audience and say, look, I'm a capitalist and a humanitarian, all right? That's I think the better path here, but I think that's lost on people. But do you think I'm out to lunch? Or what are your thoughts?
Well, let me just say what this guy, the fourth turning says.
Yeah.
He says, it is so divided now, you cannot talk.
You can't. Exactly.
It's impossible. For Neil Howe, we are in, the reason I feel like I'm intelligent today, because we're in gold, silver, Bitcoin. We're going into one of the roughest periods of humanity right now. And the problem is, from my perspective, is the dollar. And so if you understand the dollar, US dollar versus the loonie, it was created in 1913, but so was a tax department created in 1913.
Right.
So what they're going to do, we have so much debt today, they're going to have to keep printing. But every time they do that, it creates more poverty. You understand? The system is failing.
Yeah.
So we're going to have more homelessness, more unemployment, and the government has to print more money. So the position we've taken at Rich Dad is we're capitalists. And a capitalist is somebody who believes in teaching people to fish.
Right.
And a socialist wants to give people fish.
Yeah.
And then I just divide them that way. And so also what's happening with your generation and actually with Gen X, the income of men is dropping. So is testosterone.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So there's fewer men and their incomes are dropping. And, and then
why do you think that is?
I don't know. I'm not God, but anyway, I'm just, I watch, like you and I, we have to watch the trends.
Yeah.
So I listen to all these different guys on YouTube. I love YouTube, but I also hate it.
Sure.
But I listen to all of these people out there, and you can gain so much information. And rather than take a side, listen to both sides.
Sure.
So I listen to these hardcore socialists and communists. I mean, I'm white knuckled through I can't believe it. Oh, we should tax the rich. Like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We're going to tax the rich. The Green New Deal. So Marin Cattuso, our buddy from Vancouver. So when she says we're going to the Green New Deal and all this stuff, the entrepreneur comes up and we sell them carbon credits. So a capitalist is always going to make money anyway.
That's the point. And we've always said it. And before COVID, entrepreneurship is the solution. We still believe, I still believe that entrepreneurs are the solution to these problems. And to your point about, do you speak out more? Or what do you do?
I feel like it's the best thing I could do with my time and energy, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well,
it takes guts. It takes courage right now.
It does take courage.
That is the word, is courage.
And the one thing I've learned is how I deliver what I say so people can hear it.
Yes.
So people are so divided that you could say a word and they're going to explode.
100%.
But I've had to be really choose my words wisely so that they can hear it.
So Jay, it's always about the money. You see, whether you're a socialist, you said, well, we should just give people money, or a capitalist, we're going to teach people to fish. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But what's happening is money is toxic today. And so men are earning less money. My generation, the boomer generation, I made 3 times my father day one. He had been working like 40 years. My classmates in 69 are making $120,000 a year. My father was making $25,000 a year as a superintendent of education.
Right.
So the boomers are different. That's what the fourth turning is about. It's so interesting. But right after that, the income of men, Gen X and all that, started to drop. And jobs, all this stuff started to happen. But a lot of it started around the Fed being created in 1913. Debt. So the dollar today is debt and taxes. So the only way a dollar comes into existence is we have to borrow money. Mm-hmm. And when we borrow money, they're very, very happy because the money is produced. We pay no taxes the more money we borrow. Well, here's AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, saying tax the rich. She taxes the working class. Mm-hmm. She taxes the people who actually have jobs. The capitalists are kicking butt. Mm. And that's what Rich Dad teaches. Mm. It's about the money. It's how we make millions of dollars and pay no taxes legally. And they can argue with me all day. Like I get attacked constantly by the socialists. I say, that's a free country. You be a socialist, you work hard, and you pay taxes. That's your choice. It's not my choice.
Right.
And I give people the choice, and that choice is freedom.
I think that's the key word.
Yeah.
Is choice. It's choice.
So
I don't care if people like Bitcoin, gold, or silver. You choose whatever.
Yeah.
You can invest in whatever you want. You know, whatever it is that.
All I want to know is the entry point. What did you buy it at? How did you start at?
Yeah.
How many ounces? When gold was $300 an ounce in 2000, you were probably too young for that.
I remember though. Yeah.
I thought I died and went to heaven. Oh, gold crashed to $300. I said,
okay.
Thank you, Jesus. Took laps around the rosary bead, just backed up the truck. And so if Bitcoin goes back to 7,000, guess what? I'm going to back up the truck again.
100%.
And that's the entrepreneur. Because all these people are arguing, is it gold? Is it Bitcoin? Is it this? Is it that? Everybody's arguing, and the entrepreneur's just going out there going, okay, I'll take this. I'll take that. I'll take this.
You don't want that? I'll take that.
Yeah.
Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez wants us to have, save the environment. So the capitalists will save the environment. Thank you very much. And we get tax breaks for it.
Sure.
But the
entrepreneurs
trouble
can
is,
save the environment.
Huh?
Entrepreneurs can save the environment. Entrepreneurs can do a lot of good stuff.
Make a little bit more of history. Capitalists have always saved the environment because there was a guy named Henry Ford. And up to then there was Cadillac and Oldsmobile and all this. And Henry Ford says, I'm going to democratize the automobile. What that meant is I'm going to make the car available for the masses. Yeah. And that's what capitalists do.
Yeah.
There was also a guy named Henry Colt. He built the Colt 45, the gun that cleaned up the West. It was called the Peacemaker, but it was also called the Great Equalizer. So a little wimpy guy could shoot a big fat guy, just blow him apart. So it was called the Equalizer. So when I say to people, I hold up my little iPhone, I go, this is the greatest equalizer of all. I've never seen a tool this powerful.
Sure.
This is the equalizer. I don't have to go to college anymore. I don't need to get student loan debt. I can sit here. I can listen to Jay Martin. I can listen to George Gammon, all of our friends. I can listen to the greatest capitalists on earth, or you can listen to the greatest communists on earth. It's your choice.
And you probably should do both. Yeah, I mean, honestly with you.
Exactly.
Right?
It drives me nuts listening to those creeps. But anyway, I have the hardest time.
Right.
We had a communist, we had our whole company listened to this communist school teacher. I was white knuckling the whole way through.
It's hard, absolutely.
It's hard to hear it.
It's an exercise in resilience and patience, right? But it's also important, or else we find ourselves in our own echo chamber. I mean, on either side of that argument,
exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, you see, think critically. As long as you think critically, like I think critically, right?
So this is the greatest equalizer of all. I was just in Botswana in July, doing a deal with Marion Katusa in Vancouver.
Yes.
And we're making millions, and AOC is wearing her dress that says tax the rich. I'm saying, good luck, AOC. Do you know what I mean? It's my choice. And freedom is about choice.
Yeah.
And I think, Jay, your educational platform, give people the choice.
100%.
So we have to wrap it up, unfortunately, but final words, Jay, what would you like to say to our audience?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks for having me on. And that's my grand takeaway from this conversation is like, you have to give people the choice. And I would encourage everybody who's trying to navigate this right now to have the tolerance to listen to both sides. And as soon as you hear something you don't disagree, don't dismiss the rest of the argument, right? We're so triggered, so easily triggered, and it makes sense, right? Because we're surrounded by media that's incentivized to trigger us, right?
Correct.
To trigger that fight or flight response.
Correct.
Right.
And as a consequence, we hear something we don't like and we turn our back and we go back to our own confirmation bias, right? And that's the problem, right? That's the problem.
Right.
If we're really about freedom and choice, that means we have to allow other people to be free to choose what we disagree with, right? And then be tolerant of that, right? But that's lost on a lot of us right now.
Right. An educator is to define both sides.
100%.
Like I told you, I said about why do I have gold, silver, and Bitcoin? Because I don't trust the Fed, Treasury, and Wall Street.
Right.
Counterparty.
Yeah.
and that's education. So, that's why he's doing it. And somebody says, is it gold or silver or Bitcoin? My question is, what was the entry price? That's a capitalist talking.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then we talked to our friend in Bryce Island and says, well, I'm first round. What does that mean?
All right.
He's the first guy they came to see because he had the money.
Yeah.
And he's first round on Amazon and Bitcoin. He's set for life.
Yeah. He's doing all right.
That's a capitalist.
Yeah.
Okay, he's not a
those
politician.
first rounds, you know where to find them, right?
Vancouver.
But that's what that's why we started with Frank. We wanted to be first round. That's an entrepreneur. That's Vancouver, British Columbia.
Yeah.
You want to be first round? It's Vancouver, British Columbia. You migrate to Toronto, the TSE. You go from the VSE to the TSE. And if you're lucky, you go to NASDAQ.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, if you're lucky. It's a game. It's the best game on earth, man. Thanks for being here, Jake.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. You listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes, Android, and YouTube. Also, all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive them for one reason, is we don't sell anything. We're purely educational, but before education to work, it really is important to repeat it. Like you can't be a golfer without taking a couple extra shots. So if you listen to this program again, you'll pick up twice as much, but also if you have friends, family, and business associates who are not tuned in, have them listen to this and discuss this program. Because we're talking about something very important here. It's the subject of money. And what is money? Is it gold, silver, Bitcoin, or the U.S. dollar? I don't think it's the U.S. dollar. So that's why I have so much gold, silver, Bitcoin. Now, your friends are probably savers and the biggest losers going. Why would you save dollars when they printed 10 trillion already this year? To me, it's utter stupidity. It's utter stupidity. Can't you see what the government's doing?
Right.
And the question is, are they going to print more or less? Well, when the baby boomers go bust, they're going to print more. And when the stock market comes down, they're going to print more. Because the problem isn't in the stock market, the problem's in the credit market, the treasuries. The bond market is the biggest bubble in history. Oh, I'm going to save dollars. And then Rich Dad Poor Dad said, savers are losers. Oh, you're an asshole. I went, well, okay. So you should have bought Bitcoin at 10 cents.
Yeah.
Instead of $1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But no. I've got a lot in savings. And meanwhile, the Fed and Biden and those crooks out there are printing it. Wall Street's printing it. I'm going, why would you be playing that silly game? Again, the word is called counterparty.
Yeah, which is the importance of tuning in to shows like this.
Yeah, who's on the other side? Who's on the other side of the trade?
Because saving it's got the right intention, right? You're producing more than you consume and storing the balance, but leaving it in cash is where the risk is, and that comes from a lack of understanding, right?
Well, it comes from pure stupidity.
Sure.
Savers are losers. How long have I been saying that? 35 years now, or 25?
25 years.
Savers are losers. Oh no. And the Fed announced today we're going to print another $3 trillion. The question is, what comes after trillion?
Right.
Quadrillion.
Yeah.
And you're going to save dollars when they're going to print quadrillion? Let me give you an example how much a trillion is. If you spent $1 every second for 32,000 years, you'd hit a trillion. And they can print it in a minute. And you want to save dollars or yen or loonies or pesos or what? Why would you do that? Because you're still listening to your mommy and your daddy. And your mommy and daddy are broke, or they're on pensions and they're playing golf, hoping their 401k stays afloat.
Now, do you hold any, or do you look at any currencies of emerging nations, Robert? Like, are you averse to fiat currencies in general?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Yeah.
Look, I'd rather have toilet paper than fiat currency. It's more useful. But Jay, I'm pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
I've been a gold bug since 1972.
Sure.
I was flying behind enemy lines in Vietnam looking for gold.
That's right.
And there was a little Vietnamese woman at the gold station, and the enemy had overrun this little station. And this little Vietnamese, she was a bug, bright red teeth, could eat beetle nuts.
That's right.
And I'm sitting there, and she's showing me what gold is, and I realized my co-pilot is standing there going, we're college graduates. And he says, you know what gold is? We go, no. What is gold? And the reason was back in 1972, when we were flying in Vietnam, gold was illegal for Americans. And I went, why would that be? You know, and until you ask the question, why would they make gold illegal? So they could print fake money. They could print toilet paper, monopoly money.
Now, do you think that it seems so unprecedented that that announcement could ever happen? But
No.
it did, and it could. Do you expect it to occur again?
What's that? What announcement?
Prohibiting gold ownership.
Try.
Yeah, they could try, but they might try, right?
But I think to your point, so we've talked about Bitcoin being digital gold. Regulations are coming down hard on Bitcoin ownership. So I think, although it may not make gold illegal, I think that they're squeezing a generation that is relying on digital gold, for their store of wealth. But
yeah.
But this is the biggest thing about entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs always find a solution.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what makes them entrepreneurs. And the stupid other people just do as they're told, like take the shot or wear a mask or social distance or shut down your restaurant. You know, I mean, that's what stupid people do.
And I think that was a great point during
Let me say one more thing. An entrepreneur will invent their way out.
100%.
So Bitcoin is an invention. When I understood it, I went, oh my God, they're going after the same enemy, the Treasury, the Fed, and Wall Street. I like those guys. So that's when I bought Bitcoin. Now, again, so how you still buying? No, the price is too high for me.
Right.
It's always my entry point because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not, and that's why I invested with Marin Katusa out of Vancouver because I like the early round. I like startups.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I am an entrepreneur.
Well, that's where you find those innovative. I mean, I'll bet large on human ingenuity any day, right?
Yes.
And to the point where, like, I pour this Kool-Aid at my company, and my key leaders at my business all have side hustles, right? So they're loyal to me from an employment standpoint, but I tell them, like, you need to have something on the side, right? Which is kind of a threat to my future plans for them, but you got to practice what you preach.
Exactly.
And having your foot in the entrepreneurial world is hyperly important.
That's why I had to ask Alexandra, Alexandra, I need some help in Texas. Says, no, I got a business going.
Yeah, she's like, my business comes first. I can't go this weekend because we have the same motto.
I love that.
Yeah, they preach. They preach what they teach as well. But I want to bring up a point real fast about entrepreneurship. You said entrepreneurs will find a way. You have a conference coming up in January. I want to give you a chance to plug it. Is that accurate? January?
100%. Yeah, yeah. January 16th and 17th. We're back for the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference in Vancouver, Canada.
That's VRIC.
VRIC, that's right, yeah. And what you'll find if you come to Vancouver in January is about 225 junior resource companies.
Oh, the best. You want startups?
Hey.
That's where you go.
That's where you go, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so they're looking for the commodities that the world needs right now. And if you believe, we're moving into some kind of a commodities bull market, right? This is a great place to look for the ingredients to that bull market, right? If you want to bet on the renewable energy sector, but Tesla's not your style, it's not my style, but I'll buy the ingredients that Tesla needs. Absolutely.
Like silver and stuff like that.
Silver, copper, exactly. All the rare earth metals.
But you have to be an entrepreneur at heart. If you're a 401k guy, stay home.
Yeah, 100%. And venture investors they're in their own way entrepreneurs.
Oh, yeah.
That's their full-time gig.
No.
It's like they live and die by their trade, right?
I tell you, when Frank sent me up to Vancouver, I thought I died and went to heaven. I got so sick and tired of saying, oh, how's your 401k doing? I said, I don't know. I don't want one. I don't know. Oh, my 401k is doing good.
So can anybody attend the event? How can they register? Do you have details on that?
Yeah, anybody can attend the event. Just search for the VRIC. It's cambridgehouse.com is the website. And it's a 2-day event. I'll be joined on stage. I've got a pretty eclectic mix of guests coming to speak to me, including the former Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, the former President of Mexico, Felipe Calderon. We're flying him up from Mexico. And then a handful of the macro finance personalities that you hear on this show, you hear on my show. And that's to determine like the macro trends, right? So I always start my investment theses by understanding what's the macro trends, the tailwinds and the headwinds that's occurring. And because I want to invest early stage, but only if there's a tailwind, right? I don't want to invest into a headwind. So understanding the macro picture first, and then we dive down. We have a bunch more granular junior mining specific guests joining on stage to talk about exactly where they're putting their cash in the early stage commodities market.
And we were talking about earlier is that the junior miners is where I was at, the exploratory guys.
Yeah.
We take the biggest risk, but we have the biggest reward if we hit.
If you hit.
If we hit. Now, are they having a harder time finding more gold, or There's still plenty of gold out there.
Yeah, I think that's inevitable, right? It's a game that's been going for, I mean, really the business model hasn't really changed in 100 years. Maybe drills spin a bit faster than they used to, but in general, it's the same practice, right? And it's a really curious business model. If you talk to somebody who's never invested in the commodity sector, they're like, I don't get it. Hold on, this junior exploration company, their only promise is that they're going to spend every dollar I give them and not generate any income. Like that's the business model, but that's the business model, right? That's early stage exploration, right?
Right.
And they need to raise cash to explore for the minerals that the world needs. And
it goes exploratory developmental after that if they find something.
If they find something, right? And that's why it comes to like, my number one rule is people over everything every single time. So find those entrepreneurs who have done it before. 2 or 3 times they found that deposit and taken it to production. And if anybody's listening to this thinking, but the world is changing, right? We're going to cleaner practices and mining's on the way out. Mining's probably set to change, but how are you listening to this program right now? I guarantee you are relying on probably 200 to 250 minerals that need to be extracted from somewhere in order to produce the headphones you're listening to via the phone you're working on.
Well, let me ask this question. Why do you think they took Afghanistan? That's where the minerals are. It's always about the money. It's always about the money. But the thing is, if you show up for the VRIC that Jay promotes there, you're going to meet the early round Frito Banditos. And you better be on your toes, man, because they're going to pitch you every deal possible. But that's where I felt the most at home.
I love that. I love that.
It is, it's the best of the best. If you think a 401k is dangerous, stay home. Or an RRSP, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Live dangerously, man. Oh, I put some money on I put some money on Tesla. Oh, good. Have a good life. You know what I mean? Live dangerously.
And it's no different in the early tech space. I mean, I spend a lot of my time in venture tech as well. I'm heavily invested in the food sector and nutraceuticals and a variety of tech applications. And it's the same thing. We have an idea. We're not sure if it works yet, but we need some seed capital to try, right? It's the exact same thing. I love it just as much.
Yeah. And I hear so many young people now, I'm going to do a startup and all that. You want to learn about startups, go to the VRIC and just ask questions. You don't have to buy anything, right? You're not selling.
100%.
But you can learn these guys are pitching the deal. And it's like I said, I've met Jeff Bezos when he was first starting out. But he wouldn't talk to me now. Do you know what I mean? And there's no sense talking to him because, Amazon is a big corporation. But the reason I liked Vancouver is I could meet the startup guys. I could meet the young entrepreneurs and talk to them.
Yeah.
That was the most exciting time of my life. That was 30 years ago. I just love it. But most people, live dangerously. Get another 401k or IRA. I mean, anyway, have a good life. Anyway, Jay, final words there.
Final words. Thank you for joining us in studio and making the trip. Best of luck for your conference in January.
What's your thing, Sarah?
Wealth of knowledge. I mean, I've listened to a lot of Jay's stuff in preparation for your interview and for this. So I'm just blown away at the age that you are, but you have so much intelligence. So I think it's something that our audience can learn from, that you don't have to be a boomer to know all of this, that if you start education early, financial education early, you can be where Jay's at today.
Yeah, but it's in your spirit and your soul. That's why I love Vancouver. When I was on your program, all I could talk about, geez, I miss Vancouver,
Yeah, Vancouver misses you.
It was so much fun up there. It was so much. I love Labatt's Blue and all the beer and the banditos up there.
But yeah, you're right. It's that fighter mindset, right? That it's entrepreneurial mindset. It's the most important thing that I can.
You guys go, if you want to talk to real entrepreneurs, go to VRIC. You don't have to buy anything, but you'll get the attitude, the spirit, and the risk.
I love it.
The risk and how they're going to mitigate the risk. Anyway, thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming by the Phoenix office, and thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thôi mong chờ, vậy sao bật khóc cho ngu ngơ? Vẫn thế đây bao lâu nay em không hay, chỉ một mình anh ngồi khóc. Nước mắt đây riêng nơi đây em không hay, sự thật là anh nhớ em. Người giờ đã xa, lời hẹn ước đâu rồi, nước mắt đây rơi biết bao lâu thì khô. Vẫn thế đây bao đêm say em không hay, từng giọt buồn sao mặn đắng. Nhưng lúc ấy anh loay hoay trong cơn say lại nhầm rằng em ở đây. Người già đổi thay, tình mình vẫn đong đầy. Thế mới biết anh vẫn yêu em, thì sao tìm quên chốn xưa ngày ta quen.